Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving to you too, Coach. I called him Coach. Maybe I'm starting to get some Ducky and Bunny in me. Because I've done this bit before. I just, if you're a grown man, you don't call a guy Coach. You go, hey, Kev, what's up? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't look at me and go, hey, talk show host, Common, do you? No. Now, if you're really big time, like you're a doctor, a lawyer, or a bear, oh my, that's a whole nother thing. Dr. Kildare.
Those are like professions, though, where you got to like really work hard, like schooling.
Yes.
So like you kind of earn the title.
Well, and not just that. I mean, you want to give the doctor respect, especially if he's like conducting a heart transplant for you. You want him to really like you. Hey, doctor, I give you all the respect in the world. My heart is in your hands.
Literally.
And figuratively, yeah. Same thing if you go to court. Your Honor. Oh, Your Honor. If it pleases the court. You get down on your hands and knees and plead with, please let me go. So anyway. So there's the head coach. Soon to be big game world champion. Minnesota Vikings. Be interested tonight. I've not watched any Wolves basketball this year. Just a couple of bits and pieces of the very first game. Watched a couple of highlight packages of the meltdowns in their last two losses. Tonight, I think, day before Thanksgiving, got the day off tomorrow. Really not a lot going on. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to watch Wolves versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City, is their record 17-1 or 18-1?
I think it's 17.
Yeah, why don't you dial that up? I mean, that's one loss, and from what I understand, they blew like a 20-point lead in that game. Oh, well, one blown game and 17 wins. I guess, you know what? I guess I can let bygones be bygones and just let that one go. I mean, everybody is allowed a lemon or a turnip because you can't squeeze blood out of either. But in the Wolves, I don't know what to make of the team. I know I give them a hard time. And it's just because I just feel like a lot of it's, they bring it upon themselves with me when you get the comments after losses. The team just tried harder. I know I've done this thing so many times. But we know that all of their wins, I think, come against losing teams. All of their losses have come against winning teams. There might be one game now in there that's the opposite of that. I don't recall. But for the most part, they've beaten teams with losing records. They've lost to teams with winning records, which sounds like your Minnesota Golden Gopher football team. I would hope we're past that here with the hometown five. You've been to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. You know, the old Bum Phillips thing. Got to the door, knocked on the door. We're supposed to kick it in this year. Chris Hine, who's a beat writer, Fish Wrap Factory West Side, for the Timberwolves, wrote a piece, analysis. Did the Wolves forget how to win close games? And he takes a dive into what's happened. We just talked about these last two games. They had a 8-point lead with 50 seconds to go against Phoenix and lost it. They had a 10-point lead with 3-ish minutes to go against whomever it was.
Sacramento.
And lost that game. He writes, last season, the Wolves are one of the worst clutch teams in the league with a 20-26 record and the 25th ranked net rating in those games, defined by the league as games that were within 5 points in the last 5 minutes. Now they actually have the third best clutch time net rating, but don't let that small sample size fool you. Anyone who stayed up late to watch those two choke jobs know this is not a team ready for big moments. Looking back, one of the most miraculous things about last season's playoff run was the Wolves actually played well in key moments in their series against the Lakers and Warriors. They pulled out a number of close games 3 and 4 against the Lakers, and the same thing against Golden State. And probably their net rating, clutch time net rating this year, like he says, don't let the small sample size fool you. Not as it only a small sample size, but that's probably happening against those lesser teams. You know, we saw that. I used the example the other day of we beat, who was the team that won? The Wizards. They were 1-12 coming into the game. Mm-hmm. And the Wolves, I think they ran out, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like a 27-point lead early in the game. And then I think the Wizards cut it to 5 on a couple of different occasions. And that's, you know, and it's not just the Wolves that do this. When you are let's call it as it is, a vastly superior team than the other team on the other side of the well, actually, they're all on the same side of the floor. Isn't that weird in basketball? Both teams are on the same side of the floor. In football, they're on the opposite sides. Hockey, they're on the opposite sides. Baseball, they're on the opposite sides. Yet in basketball, they're both on the same side of the court. Why is that? These are the questions that keep me up all night. But I think a lot of teams, when you go out on the court and you go, well, they just don't match up with, it doesn't make the really bad team bad people. It just makes them bad players or a collection of okay players, bad players, good players that just aren't real good. So then you can kind of, it's like if you ever do this where if you're a sibling and you're the older brother, okay, or older sister, and then you're going to play sports, some type of a sporting event or activity against your younger brother. Maybe it's you, the older brother, and your friends, and your younger brother and his friends. You kind of play with one hand tied behind your back for a lot of the game, right? Because you just know, well, at any time, obviously we're bigger, we're stronger, we're better. We'll win this game at the very end. And so I think that even happens in the NBA where the Wolves are still, well, they're not going to beat us. And so then you can go ahead and your clutch time rating looks good against a couple of those teams, your net clutch time, whatever they call that. Those stats, again, there are so many sabermetrics and analytics that I just kind of roll my eyes, shrug my shoulders, and shake my head at because I just look at them and go, oh, I don't know about all that. I just know, are they winning games or losing games? And right now the Wolves have a winning record, but they haven't been. So now, tonight's the true, it's the ultimate test, right? This is the best team in the NBA. I don't think anybody would argue that. I know that the Pistons only have 2 losses, a couple of other teams with 3 or 4 losses. So I know those teams are very highly regarded, and it's possible at the end of the day, which the end of the day will be in June, there will be another NBA champion, and there will not be a repeat by OKC. But right now, if you're doing NBA power rankings, I don't think I'm alone here. You got the Oklahoma City Thunder is number 1. So I'm hoping that's enough to stir some interest in the club where when they play them, we won't hear at the end of the game in a loss if they do lose. They just tried harder than we did. They wanted it more than we did. We came out flat. We didn't put out the proper effort. Hopefully if they lose, it's like they gave it everything they had. They have a great game. No shame to lose to OKC on the road. It is on the road, right?
I believe so.
There's no shame in that. But let's just give it the old, more than a college try. Let's give it the all NBA. Well, if we give it the NBA try, we're in trouble because they only go at 3/4 speed most of the time. So we better give it the old college try and play. And you know what? There's no law, rule, or regulation that says you can't go ahead and beat Oklahoma City.
A great example of that is Oklahoma City's 1 loss on the season. Do you happen to know who their 1 loss to is?
You're not going to tell me it's the Washington Capitals.
No.
Who is it?
Portland.
And what's Portland's record?
It's a great question. I think they've been a little bit competitive, but
we had our way with Portland, I think. Did we not?
Yeah, if my memory serves me correctly.
I thought we did. I thought we had our way with them. So, nonetheless.
Portland is 8-10 on the year.
Yeah, so there you go. So Do you believe in miracles? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let's take a break. We'll come back when we do. Brian Oake joins us for Rock Talk here on the Common Man program with Common Devin. And by the way, soon to be joined by Deuce and Mark Rosen at 2 o'clock for Spread Swing as well, right here on The Fan. Couple 13-14 past. I'm Common. He's Devin in for 10 and B on this thing. We called it today Thanksgiving because today you think about what you're thankful for. Tomorrow, Thanksgiving, you give thanks for what you're thankful for. Then Friday is Thanksgiving, where you think about all the things you think about that you thanked about for Thanksgiving. So it's a 3-day holiday. Think, thank, Thanksgiving. You like it?
I love it, actually. I was wondering where it was going, and of course you did. Once again, as so commonly happens here in the Commonwealth, you did not disappoint.
Thanks. I thought you'd think so. I forgot all about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, I forgot all about it.
It's good stuff. Yeah, well, and other people like to call it Drinksgiving because traditionally this is a day where all these people come home for the holidays or this particular holiday, and they, if they go back to a small town or whatever, they see a bunch of people they haven't seen in a long time. So it's become tradition, whether or not you even live in the town, to go out and get absolutely blotto on the Wednesday night, and then therefore known as Drinksgiving, which never made sense to me. You got 4 more days in front of you. Do it on Friday. Like, why would you want to enter this glorious day of feasting and grace and thankfulness with a terrible hangover? That's only going to make matters worse.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Mm-hmm. That's the voice of Brian Oake, who joins us for Rock Talk here. And I'm told you have a podcast, and I'm told there's been some very special moments on some of the latest podcasts.
I've been lucky, man. I bet we're going through a streak where we're having some genuine Minnesota or upper Midwestern legends on the podcast. Recently, Tina Schlesky of Tina and the B-Sides is on, and she's a folk hero. Legendary broadcaster Tommy Mischke was on just a couple of weeks ago. Yesterday, Peter Jesperson was just on, the guy whose name is synonymous with the Replacements and so many other taste makings here in the Twin Cities and now out in L.A. where he lives. We did a Zoom podcast with him and upgraded the tech so they sound much better now. And just yesterday, this one might ring a bell with you. What comes to mind when I say the High Flyers?
The Red Baron.
No.
Baron von Raschke.
Well, okay, you're in the right ballpark.
Red Berenson.
No. The High Flyers were Greg Gagne and Jumpin' Jim Brunzell.
Yes.
And I had Jumpin' Jim Brunzell on the podcast yesterday. He was sitting in the Smart Start MN studio in Southeast Minneapolis on Chicago and 48th, and that was so delightful because I was never a big pro wrestling guy, but obviously, Minnesota and Texas were really sort of the two strongholds in the 70s and the 80s. It was other places, but those were ground zero. And part of that original AWA, he was as big. I mean, he wasn't one of the flashiest characters. He wasn't a macho man. He wasn't Bobby the Brain Heenan. He wasn't one of those guys. But he had great personality, and when at the peak of his career, he was on the road 27 days out of every month.
Out on the road for 40 days.
Abusing his body. But 8 to 10 concussions, dozens of surgeries. It was dozens. And he was just super fun to talk to. So my podcast is available. It's just called The Brian Oake Show, and it is available wherever you get your podcast. Primarily, though, we'd like to recommend people go through the world's #1 destination for podcasting, the iHeartRadio network.
Not that I know that you do more than music on your podcast. But I think it's basically driven by music.
Mostly,
How did the
90%.
Brunzell thing all come about?
So his son, Jim Brunzell III, is the director at a great Minnesota film festival called Sound Unseen. And they're more than just a one-time festival. They're sort of a collective and do things throughout the year. But they have one of the most celebrated film festivals in the country right here in the upper Midwest. And he's the director of that. I've gotten to know him over the years. He's been on the podcast before. And I bumped into him at that Husker Du event I went to the other night at Grumpy's Northeast, and he's like, who you should have on the podcast is my dad. And it never occurred to me to reach out to someone like that. So he brought his dad in, and we had a fantastic conversation. Because really, the podcast is largely about local music, but the overall focus has always been the upper Midwest and the things that make this community and the fabric of this part of the world what it is, mostly through the lens of music. But we've had politicians, we've had entrepreneurs, and now professional wrestlers.
Tomorrow is Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Today is Thanksgiving. There is a musical tie, of course, to Thanksgiving, and that would be Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant. I don't know how many of the youngsters listening, Devin, have you ever heard of Alice's Restaurant before? My guess is you have not.
Doesn't ring a bell, unfortunately.
It does not ring a bell. It's cultish.
Oh, very.
Arlo Guthrie, the son of the legendary Woody Guthrie, the folk singer who basically inspired Bob Dylan. If you went and saw A Place Unknown, what was the name of the movie, the Dylan movie?
Oh,
Something Unknown.
Virtual Unknown, something.
Like a piano, and it like a rolling stone.
Yeah.
Anyway, the opening scene is he's visiting
a complete unknown.
A complete unknown. He's visiting a Woody Guthrie, and telling Woody, you've been everything to me,
right?
And
we don't get enough Dylan duets these days.
Well, we're gonna bring him back.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
We figured out a way to do it. Anyway,
I didn't realize I missed him, and I'm not sure I do miss him, but hearing you do that right there, I was like, you do a better than average Dylan.
Yeah, I do, and I look better than Dylan, but that's only because I'm 20 years younger, or about 13, 14 years younger.
Sure.
Alice's Restaurant. I remember my brother turning me on to that, and if you don't know what you have to listen. I mean, maybe you can even describe it. It's a story that's set in a song, and it's not really a song. It's a story. It runs like 20 minutes long.
It's a fever dream. It is.
Yes.
It is one of those rambling folk meets rock meets storytelling moments that goes on. I've heard versions that are half hour long because among people who care about this, they care a lot, and for people who don't, they don't even know what it is. It's a tradition that this is a song that is played on Thanksgiving because there are Thanksgiving references in the song, and so it's this long rambling sort of Dylan-esque, sort of Guthrie-esque, it's a fever dream. And
it took place on Thanksgiving.
Correct.
And he gets arrested because he went to the dump to dump some trash.
And I did that thing and how this thing, and it goes on and on and on.
And the dump is closed, so he's not allowed to use the dump, and he gets arrested, and it's hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's once a year is enough to hear that song, for sure.
Correct.
But, I mean, even Cities, Cities 97, back when it was a true music head station, that was a tradition. We played that every year on Thanksgiving because that was just sort of
what you do,
insider music stuff right there, and for music heads, people who got, if you know, I guess is the phrase. And is it my favorite song? No. Is it kind of a fun musical holiday tradition? Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly.
And I will listen to it because I always do on Thanksgiving. It's 18 minutes 40 seconds long.
I've never made it through the whole song once. I've listened to big chunks of it. I've never heard it wire to wire, and maybe this will be the year in honor of Thanksgiving that I'll do it.
I think you should. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got another half hour to go of Rock Talk here. Then Spread Swing, Deuce in studio along with Rosen. That's coming your way at about 2 o'clock. It's Rock Talk here on the Fan. Couple 13-14 past. I'm Common. He's Devin. Brian Oake here for a Rock Talk. Also, a.k.a. the Grum Reaper.
The Grum Reaper, which, again, I can't remember who you said came up with that, but there is wisdom in the world, and there are these beautiful, bright, shining, sometimes laughable moments that make it worth getting out of bed in the morning. And someone coming up, after years of me doing this, coming up with the Grum Reaper, it warms my heart.
And it's time for the Grum Reaper to get to work. Headline from CBS News. Mm-hmm. Reggae music icon Jimmy Cliff, whose unique tone, lyricism, and breakthrough role on the silver screen helped make the music of his native Jamaica part of popular culture across the globe, has died at the age of 81, his family said in a statement shared Monday on social media. Jimmy Cliff, your thoughts?
I don't think you can overstate if you're a reggae fan or care about music and its evolution at all, you can't overstate the position that Jimmy Cliff occupies in that story. Of course, the number one name everybody thinks of when they think of Jamaican reggae, they think of Bob Marley. And he really is the worldwide face of it, right? The brand ambassador more than anyone. But he died young. And granted, he's got this killer catalog that everyone knows, because any kind of time you're going to anywhere even vaguely tropical, even if it's not in Jamaica, the last time I was in Mexico, I couldn't go to a bar or a store or a restaurant without hearing Bob Marley on there, or walking down the beach. He is and will forever be the face of Jamaican reggae. But number two, and only by a very short metric, is Jimmy Cliff. You could argue that Jimmy Cliff ended up building a much larger legacy within Jamaica and within the culture of reggae, just because he was around for so much longer, and he crossed over in ways that Bob Marley never did, including that major motion picture you're talking about. I would say that Jimmy Cliff, for people who are not familiar, because his catalog is not as immediately familiar to everybody as a Bob Marley, but it's worth going into. He is absolutely as influential and may have done just as much, if not just a weensy bit more, specifically to bring reggae to America, to American audiences with The Harder They Come, that particular movie that we're talking about, and his prolific catalog. He had big hits, and he was a big deal. Now, I'm like you said earlier, I'm not a big reggae guy either. You know, I kind of like it for the history of it and the evolution of it, because you go back far enough in Jamaican music history, and you've got the ska, right? And then that sort of slowly evolves away from dancehall into something called rock steady, which is ska, but it is much more soul and R&B influenced, which was being influenced by the music coming out of America at the time. So it slows down a little bit. It gets more of a soulful attitude and tunefulness to it. And then ultimately that's supplanted by reggae as the predominant form of Jamaican music, not only popular there at home, but then going out to the world. And, you know, over in the UK, they loved two-tone and the two-tone ska movement. They love ska, rock steady, reggae. And so that got incorporated into really popular bands like The Clash, like The Police, so many others that felt that influence there. And then there were a lot of reggae artists that got new life for UK audiences in the 70s, 80s, and beyond. But Jimmy Cliff is as important a figure. Behind Bob Marley, he's number two. There's no question. As a super important figure in the evolution of Jamaican music.
This paragraph. There's a paragraph here in the story that says his animated onstage presence and high-pitched tone were unmistakable. Cliff released his last single, "Human Touch," only 4 years ago. According to the Associated Press, Cliff was nominated for Grammy Awards 7 times, won twice, taking Best Reggae Album in 1986 with Cliffhanger, and again in 2012 with Rebirth.
And I can't speak to the quality of either of those records. You know, and by 2012, I think what we're doing there is just recognizing a living legend, because he'd been a hit maker at home since the 60s. He's been around a very long time. And I'm going to be honest, you know, it's sad when a legend passes, but I honestly didn't know that he was still alive. So it was kind of a surprise when you sent me that text. And I did a little digging and I listened to a little Jimmy Cliff. And again, reggae's not really my thing, but if it is your thing, and you only are a Bob Marley or a Gregory Isaacs guy, Jimmy Cliff is an important place to start. It might be also something else to thunk about over this long holiday weekend.
Do you have anything else, or should we move on with our favorite part of rock?
Certainly your favorite part. I don't really have anything else specific other than that story right there. There's undoubtedly something out there, but as you and I both age, what I find is when I go to all the popular music news websites, it's routinely artists that sometimes I've heard of them, but more and more, and this just happens when you get older. It's how the world works. I've literally never heard of them, and they're being talked about in these glowing terms. And I'm like, I always felt as kind of a matter of personal pride. Even if I don't like it, I want to know about it. And I know that the world and the music world in particular are leaving me behind, but I'm kicking and scratching every bit of the way. Oh yeah.
Rock rank.
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 I just love how much you love saying rock rank.
Yeah. Well, the best part is tend to be put it together. And I think he had Diego put it together, or something lost in the translation. So it didn't turn out exactly how Tennessee wanted.
Right.
But that's what makes it better, because it turned out exactly how I wanted. Just the importance of rock rank.
Rock rank.
Rock rank. So you said, do we have a rock rank topic today? And I said, well, Tennessee's out. We texted and talk more than most people know.
We do.
So I know that you'd mentioned rock front women, you know, not front men, but front women. You know,
Right.
Jim Morrison would be the front man for the Doors. I don't know if we ever did that bit. If we did, I think I probably was not really listening. I was just waiting for my turn to talk.
Or eating your lunch, one of the
eating my
two.
lunch. But then I did the
Just for the record, we did do that one.
we did do that. I thought we did.
We did.
And then, but the other one I did is I came up with best band names for rock and roll bands.
Right. And this one, to me, there's no qualifiers. Like, you can't say,
No.
well, most clever with is it clever? Is it funny? Is it stupid? I just went with my 5 favorites. And I can tell you why. I don't know the deep stories behind all of them as I think you do with yours. But I've got a pretty good list right here.
Yes. Well, why don't we start? Are we doing like 5 up to 1?
Always, man.
Okay,
That's how
let's do that.
countdowns work. You never give away your best stuff right away.
Okay, why don't you go with your 5th?
All right, my 5th would be Queens of the Stone Age, just because it's such a confounding name, and they happen to be the best band on the planet right now. And interviews with lead singer Josh Homme, he was like, well, we were trying to come up with a name for the band because they were doing kind of dirgy stoner rock out of the American Southwest, the high desert, Palm Desert. And they said they were going to call themselves Kings of the Stone Age, but that was just way too masculine and crusty. And they decided, despite the absence of any women in the band, I don't want to get into a gender conversation, they went with Queens of the Stone Age, and I just think it sticks out, but it also, over my 20-plus year adoration of the band, comes to fit them perfectly. I like Queens of the Stone Age for number 5. How about you?
Well, let me see my order because here we go. This one would be Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Lead singer David.
I'll take your word for it.
Why can't I think of his name? Just legendary. As unique a voice as you'll ever find. I love the backstory. Since I just love Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Here's what it says, how they got the name. The band Blood, Sweat, and Tears got its name from an album cover by Johnny Cash, not Winston Churchill's famous quote. Original member Al Cooper came up with the name while on the phone with a promoter and saw the Blood, Sweat, and Tears album cover and said, that's the name of our band. And I just love Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And of course, Meat Sauce and I and Larry Manila have sort of co-opted it because we have our comedy series that's called Flop, Sweat, and Tears.
And it's close to home. And I'm sure that Johnny Cash probably did get it from Winston Churchill. I mean, you know, it's a pretty iconic speech.
Yeah, blood, toil, tears, and sweat speech.
Okay.
That's what it was.
There we go.
Blood, toil, tears. And blood, the band name Blood, Toil, Tears, and Sweat doesn't roll off the tongue like Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
They chopped it down. Marketing. The people at marketing decided we needed to make this more digestible.
Yes, they did indeed. Number 4.
Number four for me is a band that I know precious little about other than they are prolific. They put out several albums every single year. And now
David Clayton Thomas is the latest singer's name. David Clayton Thomas. Sorry, I just.
And you're right. No, that's super iconic. No, that's fine. This band is so prolific that they're 20 plus albums into their relatively young career. I don't even know where to start because apparently they're different on every album, and it's so daunting to me. But so I don't know anything about the band. However, as a broadcaster, as you yourself are, we have a fondness for alliteration, for rhyme, for meter, that sort of thing. And so coming in at number 4 for me is the surprisingly popular, despite their name, band King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And that's real. And they have so many albums. They come through the record store all the time, and I don't know where to start it. People will buy them. I'm like, is that a good one? They're like, that's great. And no, it doesn't matter what album it is. But King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, I don't know where it's from, but I love the rhyminess.
Number 4 for Common. I'm gonna do one of their songs and tell me if you can name the band.
Hit me.
I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes, and love is all around us. No, well, that's not it.
Oh, isn't it?
No, that's not it.
I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes.
And love is all around us. And so the feeling grows. The Trogs, their most famous song, of course, Wild Thing.
Exactly.
Now, here's the story behind the name. The Trogs, they were originally called the Troglodytes.
Yeah.
which, of course, are cave dwellers.
Underground, often reptilian cave people.
They shortened the name to the Trogs after two hitchhikers they gave a ride to called them grotty Trogs, meaning gross troglodytes. You grotty Trogs. The name stuck with the band and was later used by the record label to be more commercially friendly.
The Trogs.
The Trogs.
As opposed to the grotty Trogs.
Yeah, the grotty Trogs or the troglodytes. And I just love
that
the
story.
name, the Trogs.
Yeah, no, Trogs is a cool name, and but that's backstory that I was not familiar with, and I like that very much.
Number 3.
Number 3. This one is controversial, and the name was chosen specifically because it was so controversial. 1980s hardcore punk rock was about cutting through the clutter. It was all noise, so you had to be smart, you had to be agitator, you had to have shock value. If you were going to be a punk rocker and you were going to shake the system from its foundations with your mad music, you had to have a strong lead. And fewer punk bands, although there are a wide variety to choose from, fewer bands were better, more popular in the punk rock and hardcore movements, or had a longer lasting impact than that of Jello Biafra's led Dead Kennedys. At the time, the name was so impossibly shocking that there were portions of the country that wouldn't even sell their records.
Correct.
It was considered so wildly offensive. So, and the thing about this band, they ended up being one of my favorite bands of the 80s, not just because they were shocking and I was rebelling against the system. They were smart. They were good at evoking the emotions they were going to, and they were so fun live. They were dynamic and frightening, but they were intelligent. None of it was a blunt force object. They knew exactly what they were doing by picking that name. It remains extremely controversial and highly offensive to a lot of people, and therefore that also helps it say one of my favorites. Dead Kennedys at number 3.
Number 3 for Common. I'm going to do another song and you tell me the name of the band.
Okay, I'll try.
And Harry doesn't mind if he doesn't make the scene. He's got a daytime job. He's doing all right.
You're talking about one of my very favorite bands of all time from the impossibly well. They came out of the cocoon completely formed, granted after years of being in pubs, but that self-titled debut, then followed, which the song comes from that you're talking about, followed by Making Movies, is one of the strongest 1-2 punches of a band ever in music. That would, of course, be England's Dire Straits.
Yes. The band Dire Straits was named during the period when the members were broke and financially struggling. Making
They were
the
literally
phrase
in dire straits?
a fitting self-deprecating description. It says the band was formed in 1977. Many of the members were in difficult financial situations. The name directly references a struggle. It was a friend's suggestion. A flatmate, in other words, an apartment dweller, not a cave dweller, but an apartment dweller. A flatmate of drummer Pick Withers coined the name while the band was rehearsing. And the term Dire Straits itself originates from the nautical term for navigating through narrow, dangerous passages of water, which can be a perilous or dire situation.
If you're going between Scylla and Charybdis, like Homer, or in the Odyssey, rather, that's Dire Straits. It is a nautical term. Great band. Pick Withers, of course, was in the earliest iteration of the band as well as their drummer.
And the song "Sultans of Swing," Mark Knopfler, who is would you call him an underrated guitar player? Because when people mention the great guitar players, I never hear his name in that top 5-10 list. It's always Clapton this, Jimmy Page that, Jimi Hendrix, and they are all well deserving of that. Knopfler, in his finger-picking style, when you listen to, if I'm not mistaken, when you listen to Sultans of Swing, he's playing, that's all finger-picking he's doing. He's not using an actual plastic pick. He's a guitar god.
I couldn't agree more. And he's well recognized for that, but I would also agree underrated because he's rarely, as you pointed out, in those conversations. I describe him as the kind of guy, because he's great with lyrics. He's got this incredible voice. I describe him as a guy that is capable of telling a story strictly with guitar. It obviously accents these words he's chosen, but if he wanted to tell you a story, you would know what the emotional vibe of that song is. That guy is such a talented guitar player. And the one time I got to interview him, it was a mind-blowing moment once. And I said, all right, so you've had top 10 hits around the world. You've toured the world. You've sold platinum records. You've done all the things that people set out to do when they're in these bands and when they're achieving this level. You've done it all. What keeps you going? What is the thing that you now work towards? What are you striving for? And he took a breath and he waited a moment and he said, Brian, one of these days, I'd like to sit down and really learn how to play this guitar.
Wow.
Which, again, I don't think it was self-deprecating or false modesty. I think that what it did to me was illuminate that there isn't an end to the journey.
Right.
There's not a final point.
Right.
As good as he is, there are things he wants to explore and wants to accomplish on that instrument that he hasn't gotten to yet. That, to me, was a very eye-opening moment talking to a musician. He's just, I couldn't agree more, one of the all-time greats.
And the song, Sultans of Swing, the background there is, he came up with the idea when they walked into a pub somewhere, and it was just some, it's in every city in America, all across the world. There are bands that'll play a night, Friday, Saturday, just a bar bands, I guess is what you call them. And there was a bar band playing,
coming in out of the rain, to hear the jazz go down.
Exactly, and he came up with the song there, and it's that was the song that really launched it, because that was another one of those. I compared the Dire Straits a little bit to the Cars, and then it was a sound that was so different than anything I'd ever heard.
Yep.
When you listen to Sultans of Swing, there was nobody doing a song like that, and I think that's what really set them, off and running.
Well, they came from that storytelling tradition of British pub rock in the 70s, and obviously had taken it to an incredible level and an amount of polish for a debut album, that self-titled debut Dire Straits record. Songs like, Down to the Waterline, and just the storytelling, the quality of the playing, it's very rich and of the moment, and it doesn't have an equal, that it doesn't have a peer. It's a great, great song.
Number two.
This is a band that's come up a lot recently. One, because they have a great new documentary out, newish documentary, and two, because they were just in town at the Palace Theater over in St. Paul, and I went to see them celebrating 50 years of being a band and doing it and taking it out on the road. Their name is their mission statement, is their expression both musically and visually and philosophically, and that is Devo, which is short for devolution, which was to highlight the concept that we are no longer evolving. We are going back from whence we came, into the sludge, into the muck. Everything would seem to indicate it. And 50 years later, they've been proven right. We're not doing better. We might be able to get to the destination faster. We might be able to figure out an answer to something faster. As human beings, as the individuals, as our brains, we are not evolving. Devolution is very real. And Devo's been shouting it from the mountaintop for 50 years. And I just think Devo is a band whose name, I can't think of anybody whose name exemplifies what they are more than Devo.
Number two, Humble Pie.
Also a great one.
Peter Frampton was in that band originally. The band Humble Pie was named in response to the press labeling them a supergroup, as the name was intended to lower expectations and suggest a more modest image. Steve Marriott came up with the name after a group of suggestions was put into a hat and Humble Pie was pulled out as the winning choice. The name is a play on the phrase humble pie, which comes from an old culinary tradition of making a dish with animal innards or umbles for the servants.
Yeah.
Here's your dinner for tonight for the servants, animal innards. Steve Marriott is a very underrated musician. Again, it's not a name unless you really follow music. You don't recognize the name Steve Marriott.
If you're not of a certain age, or you're not someone who's spending all your time at the record store or digging through old archives and watching old clips, no, not a household name at all. In the UK, I would argue that he probably is.
Yes.
But yeah, no, Small Faces and Humble Pie. He was also, I wouldn't put him on the level of guitar wizard, but he was a brilliant rock star. He was just a little fella too. But that's he was great.
Number one, your favorite band name of all time?
Number one. Now, again, I don't go super deep on the band, but I've never heard a song by them that I don't like. They exemplify rock and roll. And the lead singer, who's very famous, and I'll tell you his name in a minute, of this band, got kicked out of another band, a very druggy prog rock band called Hawkwind, because, and I quote, this is what he said, I got kicked out of the band for doing the wrong drugs. Not just for doing drugs, for doing and that in a nutshell sort of sums up Lemmy Kilmister and the legendary band Motorhead. They had come up with a couple different names, but Motorhead was the last song he had ever written when he was still in Hawkwind, and he's like, Motorhead. And now they've got the great logo that goes along with it, and just the chugging, relentless, ferocious rock riffs that they put out. Motorhead fits perfectly, and I think Motorhead is probably my favorite band name of all time.
There were my top one, number one for me, there was a number I had to go through. First of all, the Archies, the Partridge Family.
Yeah.
The Mamas and the Papas, which is a great name.
I've got a bunch of honorable mentions.
right.
Minnesota, Trampled by Turtles.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Because you can't get trampled by a turtle.
Well, unless you're exceptionally small. Camper Van Beethoven, very clever what they did there with Camper Van and then Beethoven. I'm not going to spoil your number one in case this is them, so I'm going to shut up about it.
This one's not going to be number one for you.
You're
going to be it's not going to be in your honorable mentions.
Oh, Beatles?
Edgar Winter's White Trash.
White Trash.
The story behind originated from a conversation between the band members while struggling to find a name for their group. According to an interview with former band member George Scheck, one of Edgar Winter's bandmates mentioned that his grandmother had asked him who these white trash people were, and the name stuck. The band's name is a combination of Edgar Winter's name and the phrase, which was in reference to people from his hometown of Beaumont, Texas, in New Orleans. Who are these white trash?
Who are these white trash? I'd see, then what you do is you take that mantle and you wear it proudly and you rock the world. Yeah, I think that's a great choice. And there are some that are genuinely terrible, like the Goo Goo Dolls and Toad the Wet Sprocket. Both very hateable names, but successful despite that. Strawberry Alarm Clock, the 60s was full of goofy names like that. And shout out to my friend Charch, Explosions in the Sky. There are a lot of your artier and more noisy bands that have also, and they will know us by the Trail of Dead, another great band name. There's a lot of them out there.
Well, and then they're from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The name of the band for Roderick, he had a band that was called Exploded Diaper. No, Loaded Diaper, right? And then the song was Exploding Diaper. Loaded Diaper. Great name.
It's very on brand for Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Deuce, you wanted to ask him about a band name, right? You texted me and...
Well, I just wanted to ask
about a band.
I just wanted to ask if you were familiar with the Tame Impala, that group.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy because I love them.
No, you're not going crazy. Tame Impala is, especially
huge.
Worldwide, they're massive.
They're huge. I figured you had probably heard of them, and I wanted to hear your thoughts.
They are... I mean, kind of in the last 10 years, as big a non-mainstream deal as there is, right? I mean, they're a huge going concern. They get played on local stations like The Current, stuff like that.
Right.
And people definitely know Tame Impala. And it's kind of groovy and atmospheric. There's some stuff I bet even your old man would like in the Tame Impala catalog.
That's what I'm saying. I got to put him onto some of this newer stuff. Because don't get me wrong, I love listening to some of his older music, but there's plenty of new stuff.
What do you think of the song, the Low Spark of High Heel Boys? He doesn't like that, doesn't understand that is literally one of the top 10 songs of all time.
Well, I can't follow you that far into the woods, but I will say, I would rather hear Mr. Fantasy, personally,
Yeah.
But again, Traffic, all of those people in Traffic were unbelievably good, and that doesn't always mean when you put all thus the curse or the lowered expectations of the supergroup, when you put people that talented together does not necessarily mean it's going to be great, but in the case of Traffic, it absolutely was.
Well, I just love the lyric from Low Spark of High Heel Boys where it says, and the man in the suit has just bought a new car from the profits he's made on your dreams. It's just so good.
Well, and also a little too poignant, frankly.
Right. Well, and here's what's really cool about it. Apparently, they're doing the song while they're recording it. Songwriter, why can't I think of his? This is going to be bad for me because he's one of the greatest songwriters. He wrote most of the songs for Traffic.
Oh.
But he Jim Capaldi. So Jim Capaldi scrawls out a third verse while they're playing the song, hands it to Winwood, and then Winwood takes it while it's in the original recording.
Yeah.
And he sings it just reading it off the papers and nails it. How good is that?
Oh, it's rock and roll, that's for
rock
sure.
And roll.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be.
And so he wrote the third verse while they were playing, because it's a 12-minute song. So they're doing jams, and it's, the sax gets the guitars, the whole thing. And he scrawls out a third verse and hands it to him, and he plays it. It's just one of those stories, rock stories that are so
I
cool.
love rock, but that's why we do Rock Talk.
That's exactly right.
And when Bill gets kicked out of Loaded Diaper at the end of Roderick Rules, that's rock and roll, man.
That's rock and roll, man.
Rock and roll,
You're out of
bro.
the band after the show. What do you mean? That's rock and roll,
rock and
bro.
roll.
Go see School of Rock with Jack Black, man. I mean, that's rock and roll.
Brilliant
It's a fantastic
or
movie.
Spinal Tap.
Also brilliant,
Yes.
crucial. The number of bands, so I interviewed artists in Studio C for nearly 20 years. The number of times they reference Spinal Tap. If you've made bands, if you've captured the essence of what it's like to be a band, whether you're on the way up or on the way down or whatever, so beautifully and so acutely that bands 30, 40 years later are still referencing your film, you got something right.
You are correct. Again, we can find your podcast where?
534 episodes are currently available through the iHeartRadio app. Just look up The Brian Oak Show.
Thanks. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you. And give a listen to the whole thing, Alice's Restaurant.
I promise I will. And have a great spread swing.
We'll
Happy
do
Thanksgiving,
that.
everybody.
Yeah, you too. That's Spread Swing is next year on The Fan.